Whinging about the greed of the big banks might be a national pastime, but often it's completely justified. Take the National Australia Bank. On Thursday, it announced a half-yearly cash profit of almost $3.3 billion. An impressive result, no doubt applauded by shareholders. But what it's done to Cathy and Terry Maloney, two of its most loyal and diligently honest customers, is so diabolical it redefines the concept of bank bastardry. When the NAB told the couple they must refinance their successful small business, it introduced them to and then insisted they work with a convicted criminal who claimed to be a financial expert. The Maloneys didn't have a hope. They went from prosperity to poverty. What's most alarming about this Crook deal, though, is it could happen to anyone with a bank loan. It's not the retirement home Terry and Cathy Maloney worked for all their lives. Knock, knock, knock.
Hey, Ross.
Ross, hang on.
At 63, they're penniless, living in a converted shed in their daughter's back garden in far North Queensland, all built from donated supplies. You lost a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, we lost a hell of a lot.
Yeah, we didn't just lose a lot. We lost everything. Every single thing.
Four years ago, the National Australia Bank closed down their family business of 20 years, the Daintree Eco Lodge and Spa. Terry and Cathy were also forced to sell their dream home. They were left on the street with nothing.
We worked our friggin' guts out for 40 years, plans for our kids and our 10 grandchildren, all gone. All we got was a bloody push bike each and our clothes.
This is the extraordinary story of how an ordinary hard-working couple found themselves pressured by Australia's biggest bank to work with a convicted criminal.
We were put in a box by the NAB with a criminal. And the criminal saying, don't move, shut up, say nothing to the bank.
Mr Prestia, Joseph Prestia, Ross Coulthart from 60.
How can the National Australia Bank choose to work with a person like this?
You're sick. You are a sick man.
He's boasted of links to the mafia. He's been made bankrupt 3 times. He's been jailed for conspiring to supply illegal drugs.
Hang on a sec. Don't smile and talk garbage.
Joseph Prestia was the expert the NAB insisted help the Maloneys with their business.
Why did you lie to the bank?
The big question is why? Terry and Cathy Maloney first came to far North Queensland in 1995.
Fantastic.
They bought the Daintree Eco Lodge and Spa, an hour north of Cairns, and turned it into Australia's most awarded boutique resort.
We lived and breathed our business.
Our business was like a part of our family. It was like another child. 20 years, we founded it, nursed it for 20 years. Our 3 daughters worked with us. It was our heart and soul.
Like every small business, Cathy and Terry went through tough times over the years, but they always managed to keep up their loan payments. Did you ever default on the payment of interest or principal?
No.
We had a fantastic 12 years with our partners, the NAB.
But by the time Cyclone Yassi hit in 2011, everything was changing. The NAB was now claiming the value of the Maloneys' business had dropped.
They crippled it. They just hobbled it. It was like they were shooting shotguns in it so it'd sink. It was just pathetic.
Their NAB loan manager demanded the couple reduce their debt immediately.
He was calling the loan in. The reason he gave us was we're not touching farms or tourism in North Queensland anymore.
At this point, Terry and Cathy realised they would struggle to meet their payments, so they decided to either sell their business or find an investor. They hired a reputable company called Sydney Capital Partners to do it. But in May 2012, the bank intervened. NAB tells them to dump Sydney Capital Partners and instead to only work with a businessman named Joseph Prestia, who claims he has a buyer for their business. So they were putting pressure on you to deal with Joseph Prestia alone?
Oh, yeah. They said there was a conflict of interest if we'd have the two companies working.
What were you told about Joseph Prestia?
We were told he was a successful insolvency expert.
It turns out Joe Prestia, the NAB's expert of choice, is a colourful character, to put it mildly. Convicted in 2004 for conspiring to supply 68 kilograms of cannabis. Mr. Prestia's also been made bankrupt 3 times. Most recently with NAB as a major creditor. And get this, Prestia's latest bankruptcy only ended in April 2012. Just 19 days before the bank referred him to the Maloneys. Did Prestia ever tell you that he was a discharged bankrupt?
No.
Did he tell you he was a convicted drug trafficker?
No. He told us he was a thug with the mafia in Griffith.
He what?
A thug. If people don't do what he says, he breaks their knees. And
He said that to you?
He did.
And this is the person that the banks insisted that you deal with?
Yeah. And on meeting Joseph Prestia, he said, "You two are as dumb as dog shit. And do not talk to the bank. I do all the talking to the bank. You people just do the day-to-day stuff here."
The Maloneys say they felt intimidated by Joseph Prestia, but didn't raise any concerns with the bank because he had found a buyer, Singaporean multi-millionaire Kenneth Lee. This is the first time Mr. Lee's spoken about his dealings with Joe Prestia. What did you like about the Daintree Resort?
I like them, I like the deal, I like the project. We were planning things like silver hair programs.
What's that?
For retirees, like from Japan or from China or from elsewhere.
And you were prepared to pay $5.5 million for 60% of the Daintree Eco Lodge Resort?
Yes.
That $5.5 million offer would have allowed the Maloneys to save and even retain a significant share of their business, as well as keep their private home. But instead of telling the NAB how much was really on the table, Joseph Prestia lies. He tells the bank that Mr. Lee's offer is just $2.2 million. And he tells the Maloneys to shut up.
He said to us, "You don't talk to the bank about this. There's going to be 2 contracts. The 5.5 is the one that we're doing. You're going to get money out of this. I'm going to put 1.5 in one of my accounts."
Into his account?
In the British Virgin Island account. So those bastards won't get that. They won't know about it, so don't you talk to them about it. And you'll have 40%, Kenneth Lee 60%. And then he went on to say that his family will get involved. His son and his daughter will run the wellness centre, and his son's very good at accounts.
What did you think of that proposal?
He's a typical little scumbag that Look, if you met someone like that in the pub, you just walk away from them. You don't get anywhere near them.
But the bank's insisting that you deal with this bloke.
He's right. He's an expert in the bank's eyes.
This is where the fraud begins. Prestia tells the Maloneys there will be 2 contracts of sale. One for $2.2 million he says NAB will see. In the real deal for $5.5 million, Mr. Prestia writes himself in as a director of a proposed new company. You were being asked to deceive a bank.
We weren't being asked, we were being told to deceive the bank.
You're basically being asked to commit a fraud.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go to the bank and say, hey, listen, this guy's a crook?
If we'd really gone and said that Joseph Prestia was absolutely terrifying us and doing these dodgy deals, the bank would have just said, OK, receive us tomorrow. So we would have blown any hope of having any investor coming in.
Coming up, the hopeful buyer spooked out of the deal. Did you find that suspicious?
Very.
And we track down Mr. Prestia.
You're a compulsive liar.
That's next on 60 Minutes.